We can do it now. Mr. Littlefield? Okay. We're ready to start. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the special meeting of the Suffolk School Board. We need a motion for attendance by electronic device for Vice Chair Phyllis Byram.
A motion is needed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3708.3, subsection B1, to allow Vice Chair Phyllis Byram to participate in tonight's special meeting of the school board through electronic communication means from 1596 Great Fork Road, Suffolk, 23438 due to a temporary medical condition that prevents Vice Chair Byram's physical attendance at tonight's meeting.
May I have a motion, board members?
So move.
It's been moved and seconded that Vice Chair Phyllis Byram be admitted to attend the meeting via electronic device. Board members, please vote.
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Please admit Vice Chair Byram. May we have the second motion to admit Board Member Heather Howell via electronic device?
Did you want to wait for Vice
We
Chair?
have to wait for.
Yeah, wait for
Okay.
Vice Chair Byram.
We'll wait for Vice Chair Byram. Oh, okay, you have to bring them in both.
A motion is needed pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3708.3, subsection B2, to allow Board Member Heather Howell to participate in tonight's public meeting of the school board through electronic communication means from 117 Foxcroft Road, Suffolk, due to a medical condition of a family member that requires Board Member Howell to provide care, which prevents her physical attendance at tonight's meeting.
Board members, may I have a motion to allow Board Member Howell to attend the meeting via electronic device?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Board Member Howell be allowed to attend the meeting via electronic device.
Board
Board-
Member, I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk?
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Byram? Vice Chair Byram?
She can't come in. They have to come in together.
Oh, okay. Board Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Mr. Littlefield, would you bring in Vice Chair Byram and Board Member Howell? Welcome. Thank you both. Can both of you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Great. Okay. At this time, Board Member Karen Jenkins will lead us in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, thank you so much for attending this special meeting. We have a process that we follow, and this is a part of the process that we follow for our legislative agenda for our VSBA, Virginia School Boards Association's body. I'm sorry, is something else going on? Oh, okay. They lobby for us for certain things with the Virginia General Assembly on the state level and, of course, on the federal level if necessary. But this is for the state level, the Virginia General Assembly. And we go to the General Assembly with certain positions. We also have a handbook of positions. The process involves our legislative committee looking at recommended positions, reviewing those positions, making recommendations to the board. Board members vote on those positions. I go to the meeting, or if I am not there, then Vice Chair Byram goes to those meetings. We have one vote, and that one vote is a representation of what the school board, the majority of the school board, wants us to do. I cannot vote on my own. Mrs. Byram cannot vote on her own. The school board has to vote and decide what our position as Suffolk Public School Board will be. So that's why we have this meeting today. That's the primary reason for our meeting today. I'm going to ask at this time Board Member Mayo to give us a report from the Legislative Committee with their recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Legislative Committee
Board members Karen Jenkins and Loretta Mayo met on October the 17th, 2022 in the Media Center at Kings Fork Middle School. During the meeting, committee members reviewed the proposed VSBA legislative positions and amendments. These new and revised legislative positions are recommendations from the VSBA Legislative Positions Committee, which will be presented to the Delegate Assembly for approval prior to the annual VSBA convention next month. The Delegate Assembly will meet on November the 10th, 2022. Therefore, it is necessary for our board to review the proposals prior to the Delegate Assembly. This will ensure that our delegate will know how to vote for the recommendations as presented by the VSBA Legislative Committee. All legislative positions and amendments of the VSBA are adopted by a majority vote of the membership represented at the Delegate Assembly. Legislative positions are permanent and remain in effect until their intent is accomplished or revised or deleted by official action. Only changes to existing legislative positions, amendments to add or delete language, or new legislative positions are to be considered by the Delegate Assembly. There are 12 legislative positions that have been recommended for approval by the Delegate Assembly. The positions for considerations include the following. Legislative position number 1, fair assessment of English learners. Improve state instructional and support resources to address the needs of English learners, particularly students who enter school with limited and/or interrupted formal education or language skills and accreditation standards that appropriately reflect these students' unique circumstances. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 1. Rationale: updates in terminology to match current language used by practitioners in both the United States and Virginia Departments of Education. Deletes obsolete position language regarding total English learners. No longer will be referred to as limited English proficient, but will be referred to as English learners. Next, legislative position number 2, state testing and coordination support. Increase state funding for test coordinator positions and the standards of quality to help with implementation and administration of expanded and more frequent SOL assessments. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 2. Rationale: Virginia continues to increase mandatory testing requirements with recent changes to SOL assessments, which require them to be administered multiple times a year. This creates additional burdens on school administration and teachers. School-based testing coordinators would help to address this situation. Legislative position number 3, educational technology funding. Provide state funding and the standards of quality to address the increasingly serious and complex cyber and data security needs of school divisions, including those associated with data collection mandates. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 3. Rationale: increasingly serious cybersecurity threats make it a critical need for school divisions. Funding is needed in the SOQ to ensure that school divisions are protected. Legislative position number 4, school bus purchases. Provide state assistance and facilitation for school divisions moving their bus fleet from diesel-powered buses to electric buses. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 4. Rationale. The following statement will be inserted in legislative position 6.8 to reflect that VSBA supports this amendment. And this is the statement. The VSBA supports state assistance and facilitation for school divisions moving their fleet from diesel-powered buses to electric buses. Legislative position number 5, school facility construction funds and financing. Provide local school boards with specific incentives for energy-efficient construction and renovation to reduce the lifetime operating costs of school facilities. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 5. Rationale. Adds to existing school construction funding advocacy to highlight the long-term benefits and cost savings of energy-efficient construction. Legislative position number 6, standards of quality and standards of accreditation. Urge the Board of Education to provide the General Assembly with realistic state and local fiscal impact statements regarding the estimated additional costs of any proposed changes to the standards of quality or the standards of accreditation. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 6. Rationale. Highlights the potential local fiscal impacts of changes to the standards of quality and or the standards of accreditation. Such changes are typically neither reviewed nor directly funded by the General Assembly and often result in unfunded mandates on local school division. Legislative position number 7, safe school environment. Encourage cooperation among state government, local communities, law enforcement agencies, and school divisions to address violence and the precursors to violence in schools and communities, including additional state resources devoted to both in- and outpatient student mental health and substance abuse services. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 7. Rationale. New language builds on existing advocacy regarding student mental health needs and expands to substance abuse needs. Legislative position number 8. Education of children with disabilities. Provide additional state resources and staffing dedicated to improving academic and career planning, post-secondary transition planning services, and post-secondary employment options for students with disabilities. Also, initiatives to attract and retain special education teachers to address historical and chronic shortages of qualified special education personnel. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 8. Rationale. Updates obsolete language and agency references. Includes transition services for students who age out of the public school setting to assist with continuing education, independent learning skills, and career transitions. Also, this position addresses chronic shortages of qualified special education teachers. Legislative position number 9, mathematics and science education. Provide support for federal and state legislation, policies, and programs which promotes continued access to rigorous and advanced mathematics and science instruction in grades K through 12. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 9. Rationale. Expands on current advocacy to highlight the critical need for continued access to rigorous math and science instruction. This issue is significant as state reviews are ongoing in regard to existing math standards and curriculum. Legislative position number 10, increased student access for work-based learning opportunities. Provide support for initiatives to address barriers to accessing work-based learning opportunities, to increase exposure to and exploration of career pathways for both general education and special education students. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 10. Rationale: expands on language added last year to emphasize the importance of addressing barriers to access for work-based learning opportunities, particularly as focus on such opportunities continues to increase. And the first 10 legislative positions are all proposed amendments. Now on to legislative position number 11, student transportation and school bus drivers. This is a proposed new position. Provide support for additional state funding and other resources to address chronic shortages of bus drivers, including addressing unnecessary barriers to entry for school bus driver candidates, particularly as it relates to driver eligibility requirements and to expediting commercial drivers' licensure timelines. The Legislative Committee recommends that the Suffolk City School Board support legislative position number 11. Rationale: school divisions continue to face critical shortages of qualified school bus drivers, which can at least partially be attributed to barriers to secure a commercial driver's license, or CDL. Legislative position number 12, non-public school students participating in Virginia High School League activities. This is a proposal to delete position, and it states, remove from the legislative position opposition to non-public school students' participation in Virginia High School League activities. Local school boards should be allowed to decide whether or not to permit non-public school students to participate in Virginia High School League activities. The Legislative Committee does not support legislative position number 12 and recommends that the Suffolk City School Board oppose this position in fairness to the students who are enrolled in public schools and who are involved in the life of their respective schools, both academically and socially. Non-public school students should not be allowed to participate in Virginia High School League activities. In addition, this will reduce the number of team positions for various sports for those students who attend public schools. This concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Board Member Mayo and Board Member Jenkins, for your work on these 12 positions, and thank you for your recommendations. At this time, board members, if you have questions or comments before we vote, this is the time to make those statements. Board members, if you have questions or comments. Okay. Board members who are joining us virtually, do you have any questions on either of the positions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, may I have a motion? Oh, we have a resolution, I'm sorry. Would you please read the resolution, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 22/23-7, a resolution of the Suffolk City School Board approving in part legislative positions of the Virginia School Board Association Legislative Committee, and directing the school board's representative serving as a member of the Delegate Assembly of the Virginia School Boards Association to vote in accordance with directions set forth in this resolution. Whereas the Virginia School Board Association, VSBA, Legislative Positions Committee has issued a number of legislative positions that will be presented to the Delegate Assembly to be voted on by the Delegate Assembly of the VSBA on November 10, 2022. And whereas each local school board has a school board member serving as a member of the Delegate Assembly, and that school board member will be entitled to cast one vote on behalf of its local school board regarding the legislative positions. And whereas the VSBA Legislative Position Committee has put forth the following legislative positions. Legislative position number 1, fair assessment of English learners. Improve state instructional and support resources to address the needs of English learners, particularly students who enter school with limited and/or interrupted formal education or language skills, and accreditation standards that appropriately reflect these students' unique circumstances. Legislative position number 2, state testing and coordination support. Increase state funding for test coordinator position in the Standards of Quality, SOQ, to help with implementation and administration of expanded and more frequent SOL assessments. Legislative position number 3, educational technology funding. Provide state funding in the Standard of Quality, SOQ, to address the increasingly serious and complex cyber and data security needs of school divisions, including those associated with data collection mandates. Legislative position number 4, school bus purchases. Provide state assistance and facilitation for school divisions moving their bus fleet from diesel-powered buses to electric buses. Legislative position number 5, schools facility construction funds and financing. Provide local school boards with specific incentive for energy-efficient construction and renovation to reduce the lifetime operating costs of school facilities. Legislative position number 6, standards of quality and standards of accreditation. Urge the Board of Education to provide the General Assembly with realistic state and local fiscal impact statements regarding the estimated additional costs of any proposed changes to the standards of quality or standards of accreditation. Legislative position number 7, safe school environment. Encourage cooperation among state government, local communities, law enforcement agencies, and school divisions to address violence and the precursor to violence in schools and communities, including additional state resources devoted to both in- and outpatient student mental health and substance abuse services. Legislative position number 8, education of children with disabilities. Provide additional state resources and staffing dedicated to improving academic and career planning, post-secondary transition planning services, and post-secondary employment options for students with disabilities. Also, initiatives to attract and retain special education teachers to address historical and chronic shortages of qualified special education personnel. Legislative position number 9, mathematics and science education. Provide support for federal and state legislation, policies, and programs which promote continued access to rigorous and advanced mathematics and science instruction in grades K-12. Legislative position number 10, increase student access for work-based learning opportunities. Provide support for initiatives and address barriers to accessing work-based learning opportunities to increase exposure to and exploration of career pathways for both general education and special education students. Legislative position number 11, student transportation and school bus drivers. Provide support for additional state funding and other resources to address chronic shortages of bus drivers, including addressing unnecessary barriers to entry for school bus driver candidates, particularly as it relates to driver eligibility requirements and to expediting commercial driver's licensure timelines. Legislative position number 12, non-public school students participating in Virginia High School League activities. Remove from the legislative position opposition to non-public school students' participation in Virginia High School League, VHSL, activities. Local school boards should be allowed to decide whether or not to permit non-public school students to participate in VHSL activities. Whereas on October 17, 2022, the Legislative Review Committee of the Suffolk City School Board met to discuss the aforementioned legislative positions put forth by the VSBA Legislative Committee. And whereas the Legislative Review Committee recommends that the school board support VSBA legislative positions number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And whereas the Legislative Review Committee does not support VSBA legislative position number 12. And whereas the Legislative Review Committee requests that the Suffolk City School Board accept its recommendations and support VSBA legislative position number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, but that the Suffolk City School Board should oppose VSBA legislative position number 12. Be it therefore resolved that the Suffolk City School Board offers its support for VSBA legislative positions number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, but that the Suffolk City School Board opposes VSBA legislative position number 12. And be it further resolved at the VSBA Delegate Assembly meeting scheduled for November 10, 2022, the delegate for the Suffolk City School Board is to cast her vote consistent with this resolution. Read and adopted this 26th day of October 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you please call the roll call for vote?
Board members, please vote. Board Member
There
Howell?
needs to be,
I'm sorry.
excuse me, there needs to be an actual motion.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Ms. Byram, moved by Ms. Jenkins. May we have the roll call for the vote?
Board Member Howell?
Yes.
Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Vice Chair Byram?
Yes.
Board Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the Office of the School Board Attorney to make grammatical and non-substantive revisions to policies of the Suffolk City School Board. Mr. Waller, I'm going to let you speak briefly to that. We have a resolution that we'll read, but I want you just to clarify any questions anybody would have about that for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Keep in mind that the resolution covers grammatical and non-substantive changes made to school board policies. As you may be aware, several times during the year, VSBA submits to local school boards proposed changes to school board policies. Oftentimes, those changes coming down from VSBA are grammatical in nature. It may be where it's going from a shall to a will, and one of the things in your policies currently is that it refers to chairman throughout the policy. And it should be a gender-neutral reference, and so it should be chair. As it currently stands, in order for that change to be made, it has to come before the school board. And so my thinking was, and I recommended this to the chair, that we consider, in order to streamline your process for making changes to board policies, that the Office of the School Board Attorney be authorized to make these grammatical and non-substantive changes to your board policies. There is built into this resolution a safety valve, and the safety valve is that anytime these grammatical changes are made, they have to come back to you. And so when it comes back to you, if for some reason you don't agree with the grammatical change that's been made, you could always vote to reverse it. But it is a way to sort of streamline your process. Right now, there are 75 policies that are in the pipeline that has to be voted on by the board. There are an additional 36, approximately 36 additional policies that are not yet in the pipeline but will be soon. And so you can see by the number of policies that it's very easy to have a number of outstanding policies on which the board has not acted on. Some of those may very well be grammatical in nature. this is not something that will be widespread. For example, in the 75 policies that the Policy Review Committee has recently looked at, there is only one that actually falls within this category. So you can see that it will not be widespread, but there will be limited situations in which this could help you in terms of facilitating the movement of your policies and will not have such a large backlog. And so that is the reason why I recommended this to the chair, and that is the reason why it is now before you. And I do understand any concerns that anyone may have about this process being abused. But again, I think that the safety measure is that whenever the change is made, it also comes before you within 30 days. So that way you get a chance to know exactly what grammatical changes have been made. And again, if you don't agree with that, you can always reverse it. You can always vote to change it.
Thank you. Thank you. Board members, are there any questions? Any questions from board members?
Madam Chair, I do. I have a couple of questions.
Board member Howell?
Yes, ma'am. So how do you define non-substantive? How do we take the subjectivity out of that?
The way that I look at this, a non-substantive change would be one that does not impact what the policy says. As long as the meaning of the policy has not been altered, that would be a non-substantive change. Anything that alters the meaning of the policy would have to be decided by this board.
Okay. And then when you mentioned voting to reverse it, if at that point we're not in agreement with the change, how would that, go ahead. I thought somebody was saying something. What is that going to look like? I mean, if the policy has been changed and then the board, whether it's us or 20 years down the road, doesn't agree with it, it's my understanding if we pass this resolution, it's technically already become a policy change. So would it have to go before the policy committee to be reversed and then a first and second read?
It could go that route, or it could be where the board would simply move to waive it going to the policy review and simply reverse it. And you know, keep in mind that 30 days after it's done, within 30 days after it's done, the board has to see it. So the board could actually send it to the policy review process, which is go to policy review, then comes first and second reading to the full school board. Or it could simply waive going before the policy review and simply reverse it.
Okay.
And I would think that the latter would probably be more of what would happen if it would come to that. Because the change is not substantive.
Sure. I understand, and I truly understand the intent behind this. As the newest board member, it has been, I guess, drilled into me that, you know, one of my 3 primary roles is policy. And so while I understand the intent is to streamline and shortcut, it feels like I'm trying to reduce the responsibility and the workload when that's what I was put here for. So I do appreciate your explanation. I appreciate your point of view. I just, you know, I represent a whole borough like everybody else does. And so I do have concerns about, you know, not necessarily us, but down the road. And I do understand your explanation about the fail-safe if this were to be abused. I just wanted to go on record speaking my concerns as I did to Dr. Buck this morning, and then getting your take on it since I have you here.
Thank you. Ms. Barham, did you want to make a comment?
No, ma'am, I have no questions.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
All right. Thank you. Other board members, do you have questions? Okay. Would you read the resolution, Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 22/23-8, a resolution of the Suffolk City School Board authorizing the Office of the School Board Attorney to make grammatical and non-substantive revisions to policies of the Suffolk City School Board. Whereas Virginia Code Section 22.1-253.13:7, subsection B, requires that each local school board shall maintain and follow up-to-date policies. And whereas Virginia Code Section 22.1-253.13:7, subsection C, requires that each local school board shall ensure that policies are developed giving consideration of the views of teachers, parents, and other concerned citizens. And whereas the Virginia School Board Association, VSBA, issues model policies that can be considered for adoption by local school boards. And whereas the VSBA will also from time to time suggest policy revisions to its model policies. And whereas policy revisions recommended by VSBA will sometimes include revisions that will not affect the substance of the policy but are grammatical in nature. And whereas all revisions to school board policy, both substantive and grammatical, are currently reviewed by the Policy Review Committee of the Suffolk City School Board before policy revisions are submitted to the full school board for first and second reading and possible adoption. And whereas in order to streamline the review and adoption process regarding revisions made to policies of the school board, the Office of the School Board Attorney should be authorized to make grammatical and non-substantive revisions to school board policies without further action by the school board. Be it therefore resolved that the Office of the School Board Attorney is hereby authorized to make grammatical and non-substantive revisions to policies of the school board without further school board action. And be it further resolved that grammatical and non-substantive revisions made to policies of the school board by the Office of the School Board Attorney are to be reported to the school board within 30 days following any such revisions. Read and adopted this 26th day of October 2022.
May I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
Madam
So
Chair,
moved.
There's a motion to adopt it. May I have a second? And then if you have questions.
I don't have a question. I had another motion that I was going to make.
This one's on the floor now. Do we have a second? Or what do we have?
I second the motion.
Now, do we have a question, or then you can, if you want.
Madam Chair, I would like to ask that we table this motion until our next meeting to give us time to go into greater detail and make sure that we're all clear with this. I'm just asking that we table. It's not a vote up or a vote down. It's just, can we table this until our next meeting?
And it would be proper for there to be a motion to table, even though there is another motion on the floor.
Okay.
So in that Mr. Riddick has made the motion to table the motion that has been made, if there is a second to his motion to table, then there will be a vote on his motion to table.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion to table this motion?
Second.
Okay. There's a motion now on the floor to table this motion. So now we would be voting on the motion to table this motion. Is that correct? Okay. Till the next meeting. So we're voting on this motion to table the motion, and we're tabling this motion as I understand it. Now, I just want to understand it so that we can get, we hope to get further clarity on the motion. Yes. Okay, so now we're voting whether or not to table the motion. So Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Board members, please vote. Board Member Howell?
Yes.
Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
No.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Vice Chair Byram?
No.
Board Chair Brooks Buck?
No.
Motion failed. It's a tie.
Now, the original motion that was made is now up for a vote.
The original motion is now up for a vote, and this is a motion whether to accept the resolution or not as it stands. And it's already been moved and seconded. So now we will vote on the original motion.
Board Member Howell?
No.
Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
No.
Vice Chair Byram?
Yes.
Board Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes?
Motion passed.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is a presentation, and I'd like to end the meeting on a very positive note. We did congratulations to most of our board members, I think all of our board members, because our board members do take advantage of the training. I know that there are a lot of people for the general public who do not understand what we have to do as board members. They see the end product of what you have to do as board members, but they do not see all of what you have to do as board members. It's a lot of work other than sitting here saying yes or no or voting to do whatever we vote to do. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of training to know what to do, to consider these things, and to try. It's not just trying to appease the public or your constituents or whatever. We actually do learn how to do this, learn what kinds of things to do, and how to advocate for our constituents, how to advocate for children, and how to do the best things that we can to help our children do the best that they can and to be the best that they can and do the best that we can for our employees. So at this time, I would like to congratulate one of our board members. I believe that he might still be the youngest board member. I don't know, you might be competing with Ms. Howell. But Mr. Riddick, Tyron D. Riddick, would you please come forward? Would you help me? Oh, okay, you're gonna take some pictures. Okay, all right, let me do this and put my glasses on so I'll read it right. Mr. Riddick, congratulations on your graduation. I used to do this as a principal. Okay, so this is great. The Virginia School Boards Association sponsors the School Board University Learning for Leaders, and as a completer of the foundations of the School Board Governance Certificate, this is what you are receiving. The Virginia School Boards Association awards Tyron D. Riddick for completing the necessary courses of study in the Foundations of School Board Governance program, October 17, 2022. This is signed by Teddy D. Martin II, who is the VSBA president, and Gina G. Patterson, the VSBA executive director. Congratulations, Mr. Riddick. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Riddick, and thank you again, Legislative Committee, for the work that you have done. Thank you, Mr. Waller, for the work that you have done, and thank you, Ms. Byram, Ms. Howell, and all of the members of the board for meeting with me today. We appreciate your time, and we won't take any more of it. Thank you, staff and superintendent, for being here with us. It's a great evening and a great time to be in Suffolk. Go home and enjoy yourself. Good night. Oh, does anybody want to stay? This is assumed consent.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous consent. There you go. There you go. Congratulations, Mr. Reddick.
I sent you those pictures. Use them wisely.